Alright, welcome back to Lunosa Studios on day 2 for the Programming for Non-CS. Sam Ahmed, as always, I'll be your host, and this is again 12:20 at midnight, and I'm back with my low life. Anyways, so today I'm a bit structured than my first video because that was pretty bad how I started like in an empty desktop screen. You're looking at my nice little wallpaper and stuff like that. Okay, but today I have a syllabus for you. So if anyone is interested in the syllabus, this will be there will be a link in the description. You can download it, but honestly, it's nothing important for you unless you really want to know what I'm going to be teaching or not. But I'll always explain what I'm teaching. But this is basically for me so that I can keep track of what I'm teaching, what I'm just saying, what I'm doing, and something like that. Okay, so the things you're looking at, these are crossed because these are the things I talked the last video. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just go to my channel. There should be links everywhere in this video and you can just get into the series. I highly recommend you start this series from start to end, and like at least when it's like a Python or a singular thing series. Like now I'm working on a Python series, so I want you to like watch from day 1 to 3, and whatever it ends. Maybe I'll keep it on a 1 week course, so that it might take up to day 7. It shouldn't take more than that because what I'm teaching is not for software development or programming in general. It's for non-CS people, so I don't have to cover all the things and you don't have to learn all the things. So that's my goal here. So this is highly recommended. You start with day 1 up to day 7 because that's how it's gonna be. All right, a lot of things I said because I haven't told it in the first video, or there wasn't an introduction. So this is the second day, and this is the code we wrote so far. Not too much, but I was talking about variables, data types, comments, and some printing, how do you set up things like that. You can see this is day 1. I should really name it differently. Okay, I'll just rename it. I'm sorry for all these things. Python series. No, this should be fine, I guess. CD Python series. Yeah, it is fine. Okay. So in this Python series, I'm going to be creating a new file, which is going to be day2.py. Remember to always include that .py file, .py extension, so that it knows that you are indeed using in a Python file. So yeah, don't forget that. Anyways, let's just set things up. I thought I was ready, but I wasn't. Python series, yeah, okay. Anyways, okay. So what are we going to learn today is basically typecasting, strings, operations, such as those, and probably I'll end it there because that is too much. I forgot to write something else that I haven't told or talked about yet in the last class. That is basically how to take user input from people. You might or might not need it, but you should know that because it's a really basic thing. One thing I want to point out before I start teaching the concepts. In this series, I have divided this into 4 sections. So like first, we're currently on the introduction phase. Like you're getting to know Python, the syntax, what you can do with this and things like that. I'll just keep bluffing things that the amazing things you can do with Python and stuff like that between the videos when I get bored or something like that. And then there is like getting the hang of it, like when you're just actively learning things about the programming language, obviously. It's basically, you know the basics, now you know the syntax, and now we're trying to build logic, and this is what we're going to do to get the hang of it in the second phase. Then after you complete the third phase, you're not almost, they're completely ready to choose any path you want to take. if maybe you wanna take something. I'm not talking about the full-fledged getting a career on it, but I'm talking about like doing any projects or maybe medium to complex projects. That would be fine after you complete the three. Now, if you're really interested in, you should also watch the fourth one because it's good to have this knowledge, and it will help you if you really want to continue this series or continue your programming journey with Python or any other language, because these are the general concepts, because syntax is here. the, once you get once you understand the logic, the syntax, every programming language is just a syntax. Why I picked Python? Because it's easy to understand. So I want to just burn you, I won't scare you with that. Okay, enough talk. So now let's start with the inputs. Last day here we specify the name, age, GPA, things like that for our like her to print the output in the console. But we are not getting those outputs from an actual user. We are getting those as like we're hard coding them. So maybe we're just filling out a form and writing it down to our like notepad or something like that. So what we want is we want the dynamic one. Like you can just type in the numbers or whatever it is and you can just get the answers. So for this, there is a built-in function in Python which is surprise input. Yeah. So yeah, you can just write input and it will start getting the input. But there is a specific syntax you need to follow. Like you need to have at least something so that you can just tell them that you are trying to get this information. Like I want to get your name, so you can just type what is your name, and you can just give it a colon and just wait for the user to write. Now, one thing I talked about last class is variables. So what a variable do? It basically stores data. It contains things like, if you remember my analogy with terrible drawings, that I was talking about containers containing different stuffs. So the variable is all about containing values. So now after I input my name, if I want to work with it, if I want to like show it or something, how would I know what the user gave if I don't store it? So that's the problem we have. So how do we solve it? We solve it with variables. So I'll just give it a name of name. So that means that I'm storing the whatever input is given here to this name variable. Then I want to print the name. I'll use fstring and name is name. Okay, okay, it's weird, but you get the point. Like this is just a print syntax, and this is simply our variable that it will replace the value from there. Okay, so now if I just run the code, which is day2.py, you see it's waiting for me to write something. So maybe I'll write 10. Name is 10. You can see that it was easy if you just remember the syntax. Don't mess up, and I'll tell more about the syntax, like why we have these parentheses, what is input actually, what does that mean, what I meant by saying a built-in methods. It will get clear. Like just bear with me, it will get clear. Alright, so I just covered the input. Like maybe we can just go a bit more complex, not a complex one, like maybe a simple one, because we're really in the baby steps and we cannot just go to like reading stupid things yet, because we are going to create stupid things. All right. Maybe we're gonna take maybe we're gonna create a form, like a medical form. So what do we need? We need a name, not name error. We need an age. Also, what do we need? And that maybe date of birth, like date of birth. Then maybe a yes no question. question, and that should be it. I don't really need to focus on those parts. Okay, so I'll just write input. What is your name? Same goes for age. I'll just copy paste it. What is your age? Date of birth. I'll just type the format: month, day, year. Question: do you have any disability? I hope that's how you spell disability. Anyways, so print. Now it's time to print this. Name is name, age, date of birth, medical history question, I guess. Set to question. Now, if I run this again, it asks my name, which is Tim, which is not exactly my age, 55. Date of birth is 12/19/2025. Ready? Yes. So you can see it outputs the result, but how what would happen like if I want to output it in like separate lines? So yeah, I can just simply put \n, \n, \n. That should be fine. I'll tell you what it is. I'll just go again like this, like that. Tim, 55, 12/19/2025. Yes. Look at that. Okay, the comments were bad. My bad. But we got a new line here. Yeah. So, how does that happen? It's because of the \n. It's an escape syntax or escape character that you can use if you need inline, like a space between your arguments or statements like that. You don't have to like create different things, or you don't have to like write different print statements to get a space. Just okay. So I didn't have to like, teach you this, but I just wanted to show you. Yeah, it might be good, but I messed up a bit, but that's super fine. So that's how the input works. Now we are working, now we'll be talking about the casting or typecasting. So basically, typecasting. Is it a bit smaller? Okay, I guess now it's better. Okay, typecasting. First question, what is typecasting? Typecasting basically means you are changing a data type. Like I told you yesterday, like data types like string, integer, float, boolean, things like that. You can cast or change the data type of a certain variables to something else. Now it also has to maintain some like rules and regulations, because you cannot just go crazy about it. But obviously there are tons of things you can do when you are just trying to change the type of a variable. Now you might be wondering, why on earth I'll need that? Like, why am I changing variable type? I can just make a variables like the type I wanted in the first place. Why I have to like create a different variable, then change the type, and then like do all those things? Like, why am I doing all this pointless things? You might be right, but the problem arises when you're just trying to do stuff that's not in your control. Like when I was about to talk about typecasting, suddenly I remembered that I haven't talked about the inputs. Now you might be wondering, how is it answering my question? It's answering because that's how, like, I can show you how useful a typecasting can be. That's why I showed you input first, and then I'm talking about the typecasting. Okay, so typecasting is basically, as I said, changing the type. Now you might be wondering what. You might not wondering, like no one wonders this much. I was wondering anyway. So, do you even know what type is this variable? The name. It's string. Oh, you can see it. Anyways, I'll not show it like this. Now, tell me the type of the age. This variable. What is the type of this variable? If you said integer, press verify. I won't answer it. There's a function called type of. Oh, sorry, it's type in Python. I'm mixing languages, my bad. I'll just first show how it's working so that I'll just type name and I'll print. Oh my god. I don't want to take. Okay. I can. I can't do anything. Name, something. Yes. Okay. Look at this line. It's new. It wasn't there before I added this type. So you can see the class str, so we know it's a string. If you just hover around the variable, it says its name str, which is a string. Now the age, that's our main concern, isn't it? So if I just type again the same credentials, is it integer? It says str, which is clearly not integer, it is a string. Now, is age a string? Do you need a string to be an age? You, like we're talking about yesterday, we wanted it to be integer because the numbers. Now, how do you change that? Like, did you mention it's a string? No. The problem here is basically like when you're doing the input, it is always string. So it's not going to change itself. Whatever data you're inputting in the console, whatever data you're getting from the user is always string. So that's a problem because we want to work with integer, not a string of age value. Like, do you think like 19 and 19 are same? No, it's not, because we really want to work with integers and we want to work with numbers. Maybe we want to add the numbers, we want to do something maths and stuff with the numbers, but can we do it with the strings? We certainly cannot. So that's the problem, and that is why we use typecasting. So now we're saying this, that the age is a string. I'll do this: age equals int age. I'll explain in a bit. Print type age. I did this exact same thing twice, but there is a operation happening here. Let's see what happens now. 10, 12. Do you see the difference? The first one is for the first one. The second one is for the second one. It changed from string to an integer, and that happened because of this line. So now I'll isolate this line separately. Yeah. So you can see the syntax, which is basically variable equals type. The variable you want change. It basically is the variable inside that you are trying to change the type, and the type is basically going to be int, string, float. These are the types we generally converted. Uh, you can probably convert into booleans, but that's going to be only working with that binary, not the other things. You cannot convert it. Like you can convert things like true to false to zero ones and things like that, but there's a bit complicated thing that you don't really have to worry about. I never use it, so you don't have to as well. But you might need to use this typecasting, because there are like always times that we are getting the data, we are not setting the data. So when we're getting the data from other sources, from other people, it's sometimes we are not sure if the data is the right type we need to work with. So typecasting works really handy there. So remember this syntax, or you can just do a quick Google search like how to typecast. But the basic thing is you just call it like another function like that. I call like type, I use input, and does the same thing. You just call the function like typecast date function, and then you just type the variable there. There is another way you can just use typecasting that's a bit cleaner. Like if you have wrote it here, if you just cover the whole thing there, integer, then you really don't have to write two lines. One line is fine. Now let's try a bit. Okay. Um, my bad for the interruption. I really need to set up a streaming screens that would be like have some clear things like that. So okay. Anyways, I forgot what I was talking about. Yeah. So I was trying to show a different thing. I changed the type to integer on the first line and changed its type to string in the third line. On the next iteration of age. So this should swap this two, not swipe, swap. Yep. My name. 12. I don't want to say. Yeah, as you can see, they swapped each other because now I was getting an integer and now I change it to a string. So yeah, basically that's how you just work with it. What if I change it to float? Will it change anything? That's a question. I don't need to check those. I'll just print and see if it changes anything. And 20. Yeah, it does change something. As you can see, there is a point O at the end. Why is that? Because it's a float, and I told you about the float is basically a decimal numbers. So that's how the typecasting works. Okay, it was a pretty long explanation, but we are done with typecasting. We'll talk about strings. Now let's talk about string. I'll just comment this out because I don't want to just keep typing my name. Now, string manipulation, I often forget it, but I'm not going to like teach you like all sort of things. I'm gonna give you really basic things that you might need in your journey. Half of the things we learn as a fundamental things, we don't use it, so no need to learn that if you're just trying to go through the things. Okay. Um, I'll just have a sentence sent, which is going to be something like, hello, to hello to. Okay, so this is the uh, sentence that this is the string that we're gonna be manipulating. I'll just sparse send, and it should run like the normal, yeah, print statement, and it did. Now, the first thing I want you to know is slicing. How do you slice it? I'll just slice it by things like I'll just give send square bracket the start index of 2 colon and the step. It should be step, right? LLO. Okay. Yeah, that was a step, and we can see it was just let's just step 1 and let's see. It didn't print anything, which is kind of weird because I forgot the syntax. Let's put it 3. Would it put L? Yes, it is putting L. So this is the start index and this is the ending index. Yeah, that's why I see. My bad, I just forgot how to slice it. Now I know you're probably like confused with what I was doing. Basically, it's slicing in these thing. So how the slicing works, I'll just again use my whiteboard. It's easier if I draw things. I'm sorry if you are really bored about my terrible handwriting. Okay, this is my variable thing. If you have, how do I just? Oh my god, I'm really not used to these controls. I'll just zoom out. Okay. Okay, I'll try to draw something. Yeah. No, I'll first write a sentence. Like, I'll write the same thing we did. Hello. A space. Hello. And hello two. So this is what we wrote. Now, I told you like they're slicing it. How are they slicing it? They're basically what's in their slicing this whole sentence into different slices like this. They treat it, not the last one, yeah. Sorry for this weird thing, but they treat every character there as a different slice. So now if I just undo all those things so you can just see it, not this much, yeah. So basically all these characters are separate, and the thing I was doing using this square brackets with a colon, this one, first one that goes, is a start index, and here the last one goes is the end index. Now what is index basically? Remember one thing when I say this, in programming it's always starts from 0. So like if you're counting something, always starts with the 0, like 0, 1, 2, 3. So if you're counting a 10, if you want to count something that's up to 10, you start with 0 to 9. So that's how it works here. So when we're talking about this H is a 0 index. Index is basically the position that's assigned to this each slice. So remember, I just cut through this. This is the first slice, which is 0. This is the second slice, which is 1. Third and fourth slices, L just got it. So 2, 3, 4. And this space is also a character, which is 5. So now you understand, like, you are just treating everything as an individual slices, and you have a position for this 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we know, like, what we do. What I wrote was 2 and 5. What that exactly mean is basically, I'll just erase this. Okay, that's good. When I wrote 2 and 5, so it started with 0, 1, 2, which means this one. It starts here, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. This empty space. So now you know why we got this LLO space. We got this LLO space, and because this is a space and there was nothing else, that's why we just saw LLO and we didn't know that there is a space. And next try was 2 colon 1. Now, why we didn't get anything for this one? Because we want our start index to be 2, which is L again, and our end index to be 1. Can you see any 1 going this direction? You cannot, because the 1 is basically the previous one. That's why that failed. So if you wanna go from like L to Python, you just start with the 2 and whatever the index that is, and that's how the slicing works. It's not that hard. Okay, so now what I want is basically how to modify a bit. So there is a function called send. There's a function which is now I'm calling upper, which initially like uppercases everything. So you can see like every character there is in uppercase. Similar to upper, there is also a lower, which lowers everything, the lowercase characters. And that's pretty much it for the strings, because you don't really need much about this. Why would you use upper or lower? I'm not really sure would you need it, but sometimes for validations, when you just need to be like exactly how the user type it exactly matches how you intended it to be, then you might need to use upper or lower. And when you are just working with it, just don't forget to use Python string functions. You just give a quick Google search and you can pick whatever site you want to visit. DoubleTree School has lots of examples. You can look for Geek for Geeks, whatever it is, that doesn't matter. So yeah, we're done with strings. Now we'll move on to operations. I'm not going to touch list today because it's a big one. So we're going to be working with operations now. I might leave a few operations because that's going too long now. Okay, so for operations, I'll just quickly go over two quick operation, which is arithmetic operations and assignment, because we really do assignment. So Yeah, operations. Arithmetic operations is basically add values, like 5 plus 4. We know it's a 9. We just added it. There you go. You can subtract, multiply, or divide, or get a modulus. So I'll just get sub, which is basically subtracting the values, multiply, which is here we have to use the asterisk because we don't have a multiply sign in a computer. That X thing we use to show, that's not gonna work. We have the divide, which is basically the slash or the divide. Or we have modulus, which means remainder. So I'll print everything here so that you can just see the exact results. So multiply, divide, and modulus. Yeah, you can see all the values, like we add 5 plus 4 is 9, we subtract it is 1, 5 into 4 is 20, you divide 5 by 4 is basically 1.25, and the remainder is 1. So these are the arithmetic operations. Basically, these are the only arithmetic operations you can do generally. You can just like mix those things, like as I have added that there, I'll just plus add. Now it should be 29. Yeah, you can see it's a 29. Now if you want to change the order, you can use parentheses. Now it shouldn't be 29, it's 65, because 9 plus 4 sorry, 9 plus, yeah, 9 plus 4 was basically 13, and 5 into 13 was 65. So you just changed the order and you just did that. Also, I can subtract sub, and I'll change the order here as well. It's 60. So as you can see, 12 into 5 is 60. So you can really mess around with how many like complex structures you want to build, how things you want to build, and things like that. These are basically the math operations. You can just use parentheses to create these complex structures, just like using a calculator. You can use it like that. Then we have assignment, and this is our last thing that I will be talking about today because it's already 1 a.m. I'll just go for the assignment. Assignment is basically you assigning values. I don't think I have to talk about it. I have to write something for this. Here, it's an assignment operation. The equal sign is basically how the operation works. So add 5 plus 4, which is 9, is assigned to add. And that's how the assignment operation works. But there are like other things when you're working with assignments, because like you might need assignments in during a logical flow or things like that. So right now, assignment looks like what on earth you're talking about. It's really simple. We can see it, like no shit. But when we just get into the logical things, you see why assignments operations are important, which is basically assigning a value to the variables and things like that. Wait, I really didn't have to like make it a different section and things like that, but I just wanted to get rid of it. So this is where we just stop today. We will talk about the other type of operations and move on to lists and tuples, sets, dictionaries, and we'll just wrap up our introduction pretty soon. hopefully the next class would wrap up the whole introduction section, because that the next class is gonna be a bit longer because I have to explain these topics: list, tuples, sets, dictionaries, and I might have some pre-written code so that I can show you some exercise or examples. And after the class ends, there will be an assignment I'll give you, so you can just submit it, or you can do it yourself. And I highly recommend you do that, because if you don't, well, I'm not losing anything, you are. So obviously, if you do it, that's going to be really great. If you want to submit the assignment, there will be a link to submit it. If you don't want to submit it, there will be a solution video before I start to the second part and after the third day is completed. So that was it for today. I don't know if it was like pretty short or pretty long. Maybe it was a bit of more stretch on this, but this is how I'm going to be teaching. If you have any kind of feedback, like my teaching style, what content you want me to cover, or anything, feel free to give comments. On YouTube, you can follow my Facebook page and whatever it is. And till then, ciao.